Today we're making gyoza, very family friendly, very fun to make. We're going to start by blanching some leaves of cabbage. The Chinese cabbage will add a nice soft texture. Now we've got about 400 grams of pork mince. We want about the same amount of cabbage, and we want to blanch them as whole as possible, just so they retain as much flavor as possible. Hispy cabbage will add a nice flavor. So we're going to add our cabbage leaves and really cook them down. These have to cook down enough to be able to squeeze all of the moisture out of them. While that's boiling on the side, we're going to prepare all of our other ingredients. We're going to start by adding the pork mince to a mixing bowl. We're going to take 8 stems of nira or garlic chives. If you don't have access to this, you can sort of use spring onion, but I think this and fatty pork mince are, for me, 2 of the most important ingredients. So we're going to grate our ginger in. Got our garlic, which we have also peeled, obvious reasons. As this is a family-friendly recipe, you can really get your family involved in this, and no one wants their hands smelling like ginger, so get your children to do it. Okay, so our cabbage has had about 15 minutes to cook, so the leaves are now slightly translucent. This is what we're looking for. And on the haksai, same, leaves are slightly translucent, and you can see the stems are going a bit translucent as well. We're going to quickly run this under some cold water through the tap. And then we've got a maki sushi mat, and we're just going to squeeze some of the water out to begin with. The reason why we overcook or cook the cabbage properly, both types, so that we can get as much moisture out of the cabbages as possible before we put them into the gyoza mix, which means that our final result will not be a watery filling. So you can see how much water's come out of there. And then we want to essentially mince this as well. At first, we want to slightly under-season it, so I'm going with just over a teaspoon, proper teaspoon, not a measurement teaspoon, of sugar, and then about double that of soy sauce, and equal parts soy sauce and sake. I'm gonna mix that together. Now, you can just take a little bit to test the seasoning. There's a lot of fat in the pork mince, so it won't need any extra fat in the pan for this. It's a lot harder to turn than you'd think. So really important to cook your filling before trying it because it's raw pork. So I'm just going to add some potato starch as well. This will improve the texture, as it was falling apart a little bit too much. This will help to hold it together. Make sure you have clean hands when you mix and then wash afterwards. Okay. Our gyoza mix is done. We're going to wrap the gyoza. I've got some pre-made pastry. You can generally find this in the freezer of an Asian supermarket. So we've got a spoon for our filling, got our wrappers, and we've got a bowl of water. So you want just a little bit of your filling. You only need to wet one side of the skin. Start by pinching the first point and then folding every thumb interval. It does not matter how nice this side looks, because we're going to sear them on the other side, and that's going to be the side that's showing up. You can just fold them in half, but then they don't sit as nicely. So when they're in this sort of moon crescent shape, they sit really nicely in the pan and sort of like connect to each other. So to cook our gyoza, we want some potato starch that we're going to mix in with some water. And then we're gonna get a nice, fairly hot pan before we put the oil in. So either a non-stick pan or preferably a cast iron pan, but coated cast iron. Now, our pan is fairly hot. I always like to start at the top of the pan and go around. If you're flipping things that are in your pan, this is a really important thing to do. In this case, it's not so important because we're just searing the bottom. And then give your potato starch slurry a little mix. And we're just going to pour it on. And the potato starch will crisp up in between the gyoza and sort of give it wings. So you want to cover your gyoza while they're cooking so that they steam as well as sear. You don't want the heat to be too high for this because we can always continue to sear them after we've taken the lid off. Okay, let's go. So you can see around the edges that our skin is starting to crisp up. The gyoza skin is steamed properly. I have a plate and then so we've got our gyoza here for the dipping sauce for the gyoza. We've got some soy sauce, some black vinegar, but you can use rice vinegar, and we've got some chili oil. So that's gyoza done.